there, welcome or welcome back. My name is Deb and today we're going to be exploring the lovely island in the Caribbean of St. Lucia. The ships was pretty much all around the world. We started with our main port as Miami, visited a lot of the different Caribbean islands including Castaway Cay, and we relocated to Puerto Rico, and from there we visited a lot more of the southern Caribbean islands, Barbados, Antigua, St. Kitts, and then to St. Lucia, which is what we're covering today. I spent as much time as I could exploring all these different islands, because you never know if you're going to be able to get off the ship again when you work there, and you never know if when you go back you're going to have to be working or if something will stop you from going back. So that's one thing I did learn in the ship, and I did do when I was on the ship, was that every minute counts when you're there, and every hour that you have a break is an hour that you want to spend doing something or seeing somewhere. A lot of people saw my social media, they thought I'd had days off to spend things, but it's incredible what you can do in a few hours. Basically, for about 4 months of my 6-month contract, I was the dining room manager's assistant. So I sort of just ran around doing errands that I needed, basically being a bit of an owl or a pigeon and dropping off different notes or messages here or there, moving different bits of paperwork. I'd update some spreadsheets and some figures that would get sent to Service Excellence, and I loved this job. Like, I adored it. I do like service, but me and computers kind of just get each other, and as much as I'm quite a sociable person, sometimes I quite like my own company and sitting by myself. So anyway, St. Lucia. Because I worked in the office, it meant that I had a much more flexible time schedule. That meant that if we were in port, I was pretty much able to get off at every port, even if just for an hour, if not a few hours. And I obviously respected the job, and I didn't want to disrespect the sort of title, I guess, I was given in any way. But it meant that I could take part sometimes in some excursions. So while we were in St. Lucia, on different occasions, I was able to take part in 2 different excursions, which I'm going to take you on today. So one of those was a catamaran trip to go out and see the Pitons, and the other was to go snuba diving in Pigeon Park. I loved both of these excursions were fantastic. If you're ever in St. Lucia and get a chance to do either of those, which is, I think the Pitons is the main focus of a lot of the excursions out in St. Lucia, but I definitely recommend looking into them. Personally, my opinion in St. Lucia, it's a very beautiful island, very beautiful scenery, but the port area itself, I'm quite a confident, independent, solo female traveller. And I'm the type of person that'll go out in a port and go chat to random people and just go explore, and it won't really bother me. But this one port I felt a little bit uncomfortable in. I just felt like I was crossing the road quite a few times because I wasn't comfortable on one side of the road. So if you are going on a cruise, whether it's Disney or another cruise line, and you are porting in St. Lucia, I would recommend going on an excursion that's run either by the cruise line preferably or with another company on the island. And I wouldn't really recommend going out alone or with small children, especially female children. I would definitely recommend going on an excursion there. As an excursion, whether it was crew or guest excursions, they follow the same procedure. You check in a certain location. With the crew excursions, I suppose because there was less of us and we worked on the ship, it was more we'd meet we'd meet off the gangway, or we'd meet just in a deck area at the bottom of a stairwell, somewhere usually in a guest area, and then we'd all together leave the ship. We met just off the gangway. We all got onto a catamaran, and that took us out to sea. And I know being on a ship, you're out at sea all the time, but it's just like freedom. I think because there's not much separation between your working life and your personal life because you live at work. But that feeling when you got off the ship as a crew member to just leave all your responsibility behind almost, because you're usually worrying about making sure you get back to the ship on time, but it's an incredible feeling. It's not something you can describe. It's just like, yay! I don't need to worry about anything and I can be a normal person for a few hours, basically. We got on the ship and it took us around a little area and we went straight towards a private beach. I hadn't dressed for this. I hadn't really known what kind of excursion I was going on. I'd seen other people's pictures and other people's pictures had them by waterfalls in like the middle of a jungly rainforest place, and then sort of almost hiking or walking up to the volcanic Pitons. But this, I don't even know if I knew what a catamaran was, which sounds really, really bad. But we were on the catamaran the whole time other than this private beach. And I wasn't prepared. So I didn't dress properly. I came out in literally just a dress. When you came off of the ship to get onto the island, you had to go down a little gangway almost. It took you into the sea, and I'm 5'4", so the water went to probably just like between my waist and my knees. So I just had to go for it. When we pulled up, there was a lot of men that came in their little boats that came up to the side of our boats, and they were selling jewellery made of shells, or as you get a lot in the Caribbean, the conch shells, and they're very beautiful and a lot of people do like to buy them to take them home. But just a little note of warning, be careful where you're buying them. Nothing wrong with them, but a lot of the cruise ships have restrictions on taking them shells back onto the ship. I know Disney Cruise Line, like you could buy a conch shell from Key West from a store there and you'd be able to get it back on the ship. But I don't know if buying one from a vendor like at the side of a boat or Nassau, how you get them up along the pier, they would let you back on with one, because they don't know if they've been treated, cleaned properly, if there's any disease or anything that you could be bringing onto the ship. And the ship focus a lot on health and safety because they have so many people on board in such an isolated area. So I would be careful buying anything like that. There was a little bar restaurant that was on the island, but we didn't have too much time on the island, so I just kind of walked around, took some pictures. I think some of the people I was with grabbed a very strong drink from the bar there. We didn't really have much time to wait for food or anything. So I just took a walk along the beach, took some pictures, and then headed back onto the little boat again, where we sailed off towards our destination, and that was to see the Pitons. Everyone, when we got back on the ship, was a little bit more awake, a little bit more jolly. This could have been because we were now awake, could have been because of the sun, could have been because of the freedom, or it could have been because of the rum punch. The very strong Caribbean rum punch. I only had a few sips of mine. I can't drink white rum, and no one could tell me what kind of rum was in this drink, and it tasted pretty strong, as most drinks do in the Caribbean. So I decided to give it to someone else to drink. Everyone was getting very jolly with them, and someone was quite happy to take mine off my hands. But I didn't want to end up seeming intoxicated going back on the ship and getting fired for that. And I didn't want to end up having to call in sick, because calling in sick for work on a ship is nothing like calling in sick for a regular job. You have to go see the doctor to get signed off. It's kind of frowned upon. You lose money because you have to pay someone else to do your shift. So if your guests at the end of the cruise, I don't like talking money, but if your guests at the end of the cruise decide to reverse the gratuity or don't pay you, you still have to pay the person who has done your shift for you. So essentially you can lose money. So that's why a lot of people don't usually call in sick unless they are like on their deathbed. So we sailed off, we went up towards the Pitons, and I don't think any photography or video can ever replicate that sight and that feeling and like some of these sights you see are amazing and they can never be described, and they're just like in here in my memory forever, and they're beautiful, and I really wish someone could just like access my memories to see how amazing it all was. Everyone took some pictures, we all hung off the side of the ship, and then after some time just bobbing along and sailing around in a few little circles near them, we headed back towards our ship. On our way back, I got to play captain. This was like the highlight of my cruise. We had one of the doctors on the excursion with us, and for like the rest of my 3 contracts working for Disney, whenever you saw me in the corridor it was "Hi Captain," and I loved it. But as well as not taking a swimsuit with me, I also, because I thought we were going to be like indoors and like in a jungle, I only put sunscreen on in the morning that day. I didn't take any with me. And as you can see, I am like Snow White. I am very pasty, and my natural hair colour is actually slightly reddish, so I burn. And I burnt so badly. Oh my gosh. The dining room that night, I remember having a table of 6 people, and they found it, like they were sympathetic towards me, but they also found it hilarious over how scarlet I was. Like, we carried trays on our shoulders, and instead of carrying 9 main courses I used to carry, I'd have like 5. And that was all I was doing, because I could barely even hold my hand like this. It was so sore. My shoulders were red, all down my arms were red, and by the time I got in, it had just gotten worse than even these pictures show. Oh, it was sore. Wear sunscreen. Take sunscreen with you. You're in the Caribbean. I should know better, and I usually do know better, but I thought we were going to be in the jungle. So no matter what excursion you're going on, in case it's not what you expected it to be, wear sunscreen and take it with you, or you will end up in pain for an entire cruise like I was, because when that started to peel, that was not fun. No. Even in the Caribbean, it can get a little rainy, and it can get a bit chilly as well, which we discovered when we went on my second excursion in St. Lucia to Pigeon Park to go snuba diving. Luckily we were in the water the whole time, lucky we were under the water the whole time, so once we were in the water it was fine. We were kitted up with our flippers, our masks and our mouthpieces, and we were split into groups of maybe 4 or 5 per little dinghy or a little inflatable boat, and we went out into the water pretty much straight away. For anyone who doesn't know what snuba diving is, because when I saw this excursion be displayed on the I-95 for advertisement, I had to ask someone what it was. So it's basically scuba diving, but you don't need a certificate, and instead of having like the air canister on your back and being responsible for that, everything is up top on the dinghy, so that's all up there above the water, and you're basically attached to this tube, and you still have the mouthpiece, so it's not quite snorkeling because you still have the breathing apparatus, but everything that you normally carry with you to scuba dive is all above you, so you just sort of get carried along by this yellow tube. But I loved it. It took me a while to get used to, but I loved it. I honestly can't wait to do this again sometime, whether it's in a Caribbean island or somewhere else abroad. This is definitely like on my list of things that I really love to do, because it took me, I think we were in the water for about an hour, and it probably took me a good part of half an hour to not be slightly nervous or freaking out a little and have to come back up to the surface every so often. I think I'd snorkeled before, but I'd never really been, unless in a swimming pool, so far underwater. And I think when you look up, it was a bit nerve-wracking, and when you go down as well, your ears pop because of the pressure, so you have to make sure to hold your nose and unpop your ears, or you're going to be very uncomfortable down there. I know one of the women we went with, she didn't like it at all, and she couldn't quite get her ears to unpop. However, I like hold my nose and blow through it when I'm on airlines to unpop my ears, so it's something I guess I'm used to. But it did take a while to get used to it, and then eventually I was like looking up with the sun or like the daylight coming through the water top, feeling like I was Ariel, the Little Mermaid, and absolutely enjoying life. I mean, you're like down in the seabed basically, but I could have held my breath and probably swam to the surface, but you don't really think of that at the time, I don't think. Or maybe I don't. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think. Because of the rain, and even when we were under the water, it was still raining above us on and off, so there wasn't too much marine life out. It was quite murky under the water because of the heavy rain we'd had earlier that day, so we didn't see too much. However, we did see some little tiny fish at one point and I got extremely excited. We also saw a sea urchin that I got to hold, which was very odd. Like, it sticks to you, so it doesn't come off, and it's not spiky like a porcupine like you'd expect. It was almost rubbery, I guess, and quite soft and sticky, and it was very cool. Eventually, when I got used to it, I really enjoyed just the peace of being underwater. So overall, I had an absolutely fantastic day there. As I said, it's something that I would absolutely love to do again at some point in the future. The instructors were very professional and they were very friendly, as I found from a lot of people in the Caribbean, especially in the leisure and the tourist industry. I suppose they're used to tour groups coming all the time from the cruise ships, and they're quite happy to talk to you about different things that you can get up to in the Caribbean, different things to see as well. And they're just very nice to talk to, very pleasant people. If you're looking for an excursion in St. Lucia that's maybe a bit different from the Pitons, I definitely recommend the snuba diving. They also, as well as doing the snuba diving, they also offered the, can't remember what it's called. They do it, I think at Discovery Cove in Florida and Aquatica in Florida, I think, where you have basically the big helmet on in the big suit and you just sort of like walk about the seabed. I think they've done that as well, but I quite like swimming about. But I suppose if you don't like swimming or you've got younger kids, then you might find that one a little bit more entertaining. The Caribbean offers a lot of different excursions like this, and I am so thankful to have been given opportunities in life to be able to go see these different places and do these different things. And that's why I'm now making videos on my experiences, because I know a lot of people will never get the experience to do that, and I'd love to share it with you all, whether you're considering doing something like that or just it's not something that you'll probably do because maybe you don't like cruises, or maybe it's just not a place that you want to spend a long time holidaying. Because a lot of these islands, there is a lot to do, but they are very sort of cruise port islands. None of these places are really ever places I go spend a prolonged period of time. If you're interested in seeing more of these adventures, just below this video there's a little red subscribe button. If you click it, then you'll be able to follow along in all my adventures going forward. Also, if you have enjoyed this video, let me know by high-fiving that little like button down there. I do hope that you've enjoyed exploring with me in St. Lucia, and I'm excited to have you along exploring again with me. So until then, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.
If everyone knew